what's up, everybody? This is Eddie Miranda, and we are on the road to the Arnold Classic here. And as you guys know, we have been interviewing some of the top athletes going into this year's show. And who we have, she is no stranger to the stage, even though that she only has been in her professional career for about 2 years, but has already been able to step on the Olympia stage and has two pro wins underneath her belt. And who we have today is Julia Warren. How are you doing, Julia? How's everything?
I'm doing good. Can't complain.
So how are you feeling so far? I know. I mean, what? It's like 4 days before you step on stage.
Yeah, 4 days. 4 days.
How tired are you right now?
I'm tired. So luckily I was smart this time and took off the whole week of work going into the show. But this is a time where, calories do drop. Cardio is a little bit more than it has been. And just trying to just get the strength to do everything you got to do to get ready, get the nails done, get the meal prep done. And that takes a lot of energy in itself. So excited, running off of, I think, more of adrenaline than anything. Yeah. But definitely feeling the prep.
Yeah, I know that final week you have to travel, so you have to prep all your meals to be over there. Make sure you have everything. I remember I would have to cut my hair, make sure do all the little things in order to get yourself ready. Make sure you look nice on stage.
Yep.
So I just want our viewers, our fans to be know a little bit more about you. So what kind of person were you before you even got to competing or even to bodybuilding? I know you got your pro card in 2017, and I didn't see much records of your competition history prior to that. But what led you into wanting to compete, to get on stage, and to bodybuild?
Well, I've always been an athlete. I tell people are like, how long have you been lifting weights? I truly have been lifting weights since I was 14 years old. I played volleyball, ran track in high school. I ran collegiate track after I graduated from West Point, went to the military. So I had to be physically fit. And I also continued to lift weights outside of what we had to do in the military. So I've always loved being active and lifting weights and being in the gym. So when I got out of the military, I was looking for a competitive edge. I started off with trying to do 5Ks, and I realized that I really didn't like running that much, which is probably one of the reasons I got in the military. So I actually just on a whim hired a personal trainer just in my normal life just to push me and give me an edge and something to strive for physically while I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. Then in 2013, I actually moved back home to care for my grandfather who raised me. And when he passed, it was a very traumatic experience in my life. And my trainer was actually like, let's do something to focus all of this pain to something else. He was like, have you ever thought about bodybuilding? And I was like, no, truth be told, I didn't even know there were pros in bodybuilding. I just thought this was this sport that everybody did. And it was, a really cool hobby. I was so oblivious to the sport, but I just loved lifting weights. I loved the art of bodybuilding. So that's how I got my start.
No, that's awesome. And how much of your athletic background and your military background played into what you do today as far as your training and your competition itself?
So I would say my military background doesn't play much in it at all. I mean, the things we did, they were more body weight, and it was tailored to a 3-part PT test. I would say it was my athletic background that played the biggest part. And just because I already knew how to lift weights, I already had muscle. It was just a matter of building a structure. So that was the biggest difference.
So tell us about your journey getting your pro card. You got your pro card 2017 at Junior USA's. But I don't see any records of you going for your pro card prior to that. So was that your one and done show that you went for that first time and got your pro card, or did you have to do other national qualifying shows before that?
So that was my third national show. I did my first national show in 2015. I did North Americans. Did never have stepped on stage, but it was a great learning experience. Came in third call outs, very humbled, took almost a year off. And then in 2016, I did Junior USA for the first time. Came in second call outs, still very humbling experience. Took all the judges' feedback. And my thing was, is every time I got feedback, I took a long time off to make sure I fixed whatever I need to fix. And then the biggest thing for me was just figuring out my conditioning. And then in 2017, I, linked up with a mentor that kind of helped me learn to coach myself keto style. And we just nailed it conditioning wise. and I came out with my pro card in 2017.
Now, I definitely want to get into the whole keto thing a little bit later, but you're saying between your between your national shows, you took an entire year off to improve. Now, was that the same instance from when you got your pro card to the first time you stepped on stage in your rookie year, that you did Junior USA's, which is at the beginning of the year, and then you went over to Pittsburgh Pro, which is the beginning of the following year? So is that the same thing that you did? You went and worked on your weak points, you worked on what you needed to do before you got on that stage?
Yes, I knew I needed to grow, and I wanted to be competitive. I just didn't want to compete. So I made sure I took enough time off to fix those things that I needed to fix and put on a little bit of size. So yes.
Yeah. Now, you went to the Pittsburgh Pro that year in 2018, winning second at that show, which is very, again, a lot of the top athletes go to that. So that's an amazing feat to be able to do, first time stepping on the stage. But you went over to Chicago Pro just a couple months later and you won it, got qualified for 2018. What was that feeling of getting that first pro win and your first qualification to the O?
Oh man, it was crazy. Actually, I think now I can, and I guess, respect the experience more because I was so new in the sport. Just even getting first call outs at my first pro show was just like, oh, wow, I got first call outs, but I didn't really, know what it meant. I was just like, oh, like I was more in shock than anything. And then going to Chicago, I knew what I had to win, but I was so new. I haven't really I guess, made my mark in the bodybuilding community as a pro. I didn't have many associates in the bodybuilding community. I didn't really know many other pros. So it was me being very brand new, going through such a big experience. I think it was kind of overwhelming. And I think now, because I've, learned the importance of competing and getting in front of the judge, is actually embracing the bodybuilding community, reaching out for sponsorships, getting my name out there. It's just a much more wholesome experience now.
Yeah. Now, you said a little bit earlier that you had switched to keto. Now,
yes.
Is that something that you use in your everyday competition life now? Because keto is basically almost frowned upon in the bodybuilding world as a way to prep. But it seems like that's the kind of diet form that you use now and today. How is it so much different for you to be able to be using keto versus a carb cycling kind of a diet?
So I no longer use keto. Once I got a coach, Damien Segovia of Pro Physiques is not a keto guy. He's a carb cycling guy. So it took a while to get my body to be able to accept carbs, especially larger amount of carbs. So it's been a process. But I only did keto. When I got my pro card, I was keto. I did it my entire first year. So Pittsburgh, Chicago, and the Olympia were all keto. Actually, Pittsburgh of last year was keto, and then that's when I realized I was burnt out on keto.
Yeah.
So I welcomed a new method, and at that point, I needed a coach. So I no longer do keto, but I will say keto works.
Yeah.
It works. I wouldn't say it's a long-term solution, but it definitely, going a period of time, even if you carb cycling, maybe without some carbs. I mean, especially for my body, and I've learned that. For athletes, a lot of athletes' bodies like fats. So for me and my body type, it worked well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always known for keto to be, 2 weeks max. I've always recommended at least 1 week to be able, because I know it's like an strenuous kind of a diet because you're completely depleted from carbs. In fact, even one of my coaches was like, he was all keto all the time. He's like, oh, fats hate you, fats hate you. And then I got with a coach that know how to carb cycle, and I was the most shredded I have ever been on carbs. So I know that keto only plays a certain role when it comes to competition for fast shredding or whatever the case may be. It's not a long-term thing. But now going into this carb cycle, what are you doing differently in the manipulation of your carbs or even your diet going into this Arnold versus your pro win over at the Legion Sports Festival, which you had at the end of last year?
So I'm going to touch on keto real quick. So when I did do keto, I did keto the entire prep. So I'm talking about 15, 12 weeks. So at a point, your body does get adapt to it, and it learns to feed off the fats for energy. So I was still able to be full. It was just between shows, it was hard to keep that momentum going. Yeah. So as far as Legion and the Arnold, I'm eating more carbs now. Like I said, it's been a process to get my body to be able to accept carbs without significant water retention. And that's another thing about being keto, where you don't have any glycogen in your system.
Mm-hmm.
Glycogen is what holds water. So I would get dry. I wouldn't need any type of, I think I would take a potassium pill and that was it. Like
Yeah.
I never held water. So carbs do make me retain water pretty significantly. We increased my carbs where my high days were almost 350 going into Arnold, where they might have hit 200 going into Legends, but it's worked. I've stayed fuller. I've put on a little bit more size. It's been I would say not a harder cut, but we've had to start a little bit earlier this time just to make sure I can, get rid of that water retention and get down to where I need to be as far as stage weight.
Now, did you do a full 12-week or 16-week prep? So you took off Christmas, you took off New Year's. You couldn't. I'm saying it because you really couldn't enjoy it with family and friends. But is that making a difference in your prep this year that you were actually able to start the ground running at your 12 or 16 versus 10 or 11 like everybody else?
Yeah, so already being lean, and I had a great reverse diet. For me, as long as I don't eat sugars, like sweets and things like that, my body adapts very well. So I had a great reverse diet, didn't gain much weight, had like 3 weeks off. And then you're right, I had a Christmas meal, but I didn't get to enjoy anything else. Yeah. And I honestly do think it gives me momentum because I was already in the mindset. My skin was already relatively tight. My body was already in a certain conditioning, so I wasn't trying to drop a bunch of body fat. At this point, it was just maintaining until it was time to drop the hammer and get shredded.
Now, going into the actual Arnold itself, where, has your training changed? Has it increased, decreased? Like, did you have to focus on any specific body parts to bring up that you wanted to be more symmetrical or to, have more detail in any specific parts going into the show?
Yeah, so one of my significant feedbacks was actually building my upper chest so that all of this ties in better instead of having gaps. And then for me too, it's been, I would say for the last year, getting my quad sweep to catch up with my lats. I can grow back like this, but as far as getting my quads to catch up, it's been a little bit harder. So we actually went to 3 leg days, 1 full out leg day with my husband. I took 1 leg day for myself, and then the third leg day was more of a glute ham like quad day. So we definitely increased intensity on legs and upper chest, and I gave my husband my upper chest day. So whatever I need to improve on the most, I let my husband train me. He only gets me 2 days a week, so that's what we focus on.
Now, you said a little bit earlier you changed coaches. I understand that your husband was coaching you prior, so who's your new nutritional coach if your husband's still training you in the gym?
So my husband was never my nutritional coach. I did my own diet.
Okay.
He's always just been my trainer. So Damien Sahovia, who also coaches Sydney, he's my nutrition coach. And him and my husband work together to make sure that my training lines up with my diet.
All right. So now let's get into the real fun stuff. Day of show. All right.
Yes.
What are your expectancies the day of the show, and who do you feel will be in your way from taking the top spot at this year's Olympia? This year's Arnold Classic.
Day of the show, for me, I went to Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago and I got in front of the judges, and really the only feedback I got was make sure she comes in conditioning. I have great proportions, great structure, and comparably, when we talk about balance, structure, proportions, I think I'm pretty high up there. It will just maybe come down to maybe the level of conditioning and how conditioned they want us to be. That would be, I would say, my variable. But as far as a total package, I truly feel like I have what it takes to potentially win. And,
I know that there's, previous winners on that stage. In fact, as far as pro shows and Olympias and stuff like that. But, nobody on that stage for figure is really a reigning champion right now. So it's up for grabs. But who do you feel would be in your way to be able to get there?
I mean, if you talk about history, Jessica Padilla. Yeah. I mean, she's been a top athlete for the last couple of years, winning big shows, placing top 5 in the Olympia multiple years. So definitely Jessica Padilla. A lot of people has her as their winner for the show. So I would say she is the one to beat.
Now, you're qualified based off of your win over at Legions. And, a lot of a lot of competitors have, their sights set on shows afterwards, before the Olympia, and some competitors just want to be able to work on their physique going into it. Do you have any plans to step on stage after the Arnold before you get onto the Olympia stage?
I have been prepping for over 365 days. So if I had not done 5 shows in 1 year, maybe, but I really at this point, the only thing for me to do is let my body rest so that I can bring the best that I could bring for the Olympia.
Awesome. Now, as far as the Arnold's concerned, you've probably been there several years, so you probably know how it is over there. What are you looking forward to the most at this year's Arnold Classic? Whether it be, seeing the big boys or something at the expo. Like, what would be the biggest thing that you want to be able to see over there?
So I have never been to the Arnold. My husband and I said that we were going to go for the first time when I qualified for the Arnold. So this is our first year. So I'm looking forward to the entire experience. Definitely always enjoy watching the big boys. If you love bodybuilding, you can't neglect that fact. So watching that, and even watching like the bikini and men's physique, because there's so much rivalry, and it's just a fun thing to watch. Seeing the expo, because I heard the expo was even bigger than what is at the Olympia. Mm-hmm. And even just the experience as an athlete, just the things that we've already been told that we, get help with and assistance with, to me is maybe even more than what we got at the Olympia. So I'm just looking for and sharing it with my husband, who is the bodybuilding fan of them all. So just really, just the whole experience.
So you're big bodybuilding fans, but yet haven't been to the Arnold's, and it's really considered like one of the biggest sometimes considered bigger than the Olympia because of the amount of people that show up and the kind of, caliber of the athletes and the celebrities that show up. It's bar none more than what the Olympia will be. So that's kind of weird that you guys, are bodybuilding fanatics and have yet to be able to be there.
Yeah. I think more so it's surprising for him than me. Like I said, when I started off, I was very new to the sport. So even though I love this, I'm a huge fan now of everyone who competed. It took me a while to really gain that respect and knowledge of the sport. So for me, I think it's surprising that my husband's never been, but we're definitely looking forward to it. And this will, whether I compete in another Arnold or Olympia again after this year, this is definitely shows that we will continue to support.
And there's something else with you guys too. It's like you're almost a top tier athlete, but you also have a full-time job, right? So, yeah. So what's that balance? I mean, I know I've been through that balance. I know how rough it is, but at a pro level, trying to go to the Arnold, how's that balance working for you just to get on stage and having your full-time career, having everything else that you need to do in your daily lives because you're not 100% an athlete that's just dedicated to the actual sport? It's
hard. I will say that it doesn't get any easier because you are at many times neglecting your ability to fully perform on your job because you're so tired or you're so hungry, your mental's not there. So for me, it's doing this for more than just a self reason. I have to always remember the why am I doing this, the inspiring of other people, the sharing of God's grace. Those things are what keep me mentally focused because the mental is really what this sport's about. Beyond the physical, I can make it to the gym. I can make it through the cardio. I'll suffer through the diet. But if your mental isn't right, then that's what makes or break you. So for me, I have to remember why I'm doing this in order to be able to keep pushing. And my husband helps as much as he can. He'll pick up some of the house chores if he has to when I'm prepping and he's not, to help balance the household. Because we work, but we still have to take care of our marriage, take care of our house. We still have ministry responsibilities. So we have to do teamwork to do this, and we try not to prep at the same time so that we can balance it a little bit better, but that doesn't always work out.
Yeah, no, I've been in situations of prepping at the same time. I've also been in situations of prepping while just having a baby. It's not an easy.
It's never easy. It's never easy.
No, I think I even dropped out of a show like 10 days before I stepped on stage because it was just too much.
If I wasn't placing top 5 consistently, I don't think I would continue to do it. Because at the end of the day, too, there has to be a financial return in some sort because it's a lot of money that you put into it. Mm-hmm. If I'm not to the point where I can be the best, and I'm not going to just compete just to compete at all the sacrifice that I have to make in the process.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Julia, again, just want to thank you for jumping on this call. I know it's 4 days out from you stepping on stage. I know you're tired. You have to get stuff done. But again, truly appreciate for you taking the time to jump on this call and interviewing with us. We truly appreciate your time.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Julia.
All right. See you this weekend?
Oh, no, we'll definitely be there this weekend. We will definitely be there this weekend, and we'll run into each other.
Okay. Have a good one. Thank you.